The story begins with a woman named Louise. She is a single mom getting ready to go out one evening. Her ex-husband was recently hurt, so their young son Adam now spends time with both Louise and his grandfather. Louise asks her neighbor to watch Adam, but her best friend Sophie cancels last minute because she's sick. Louise feels disappointed. While out, Louise spills her drink on a man named David. They talk and feel a quick connection, but then David walks away looking worried. The next day, Louise goes to work at a clinic where she helps Dr. Sharma. She sees a couple in the office, and to her surprise, the man is David, and the woman is his wife. Louise hides, feeling shocked and embarrassed. Later, she tells Sophie what happened and learns David just started working at the clinic. When Louise and David met, they hadn't shared names. That night, Louise tries to sleep but struggles with scary dreams. She has never told anyone about them. The next morning, we see David at home with his wife, Adele. He gives her medicine before work. Adele loves David, but he seems unhappy. After he leaves, Adele lies in bed, looking lost and sad. At the clinic, David is surprised to see Louise. She says she works there part-time. They talk briefly, and David says he recently moved to the area. He also volunteers to support truck drivers. Later, Dr. Sharma hosts a small party for coworkers. David brings Adele, but she feels uncomfortable. That night, Adele tries to be close to David, but he pulls away. We notice a burn on his hand. Then we see Adele's past at a recovery center before she got married. She had grown close to a man named Rob, who used to take drugs. Meanwhile, Adam's dad wants to take him to France. Louise says no, which makes Adam upset. Sophie encourages her to let him go, and Louise finally agrees. One day after dropping Adam at school, Louise runs into Adele. Adele doesn't recognize her, so Louise just says she works with David. Adele invites her for coffee, and Louise agrees. They talk about their lives. Adele says she never worked because her family is rich. She sees a cut on Louise's hand. Louise says she got it from sleepwalking and talks about her bad dreams. David calls Adele during the visit, but she doesn't mention Louise. She asks for Louise's number, and Louise gives it. That night, Adele paints a picture of a forest on her wall. It's a place from the recovery center. She seems to miss it. She finds Rob's old diary filled with poems. Later, David sees the painting and gets upset. At the clinic, David is in a bad mood. Louise gives him papers, but he acts cold. Adele keeps messaging Louise to hang out or go to the gym. Her messages feel a bit too much. David is kind to a sad young patient and helps him feel better. Adele visits Louise and takes her to the gym. They start spending more time together, and Louise likes her. Adele is kind and helpful when visiting. One day, Adele tells Louise how she met David. There was a fire when she was 17, and David saved her. Her parents died that night, and they've been together since. Louise visits Adele's home and learns David often calls the landline, maybe to check if she's home. That night, Adele gives Louise Rob's diary, saying it might help her anxiety. Louise accepts it politely. At home, Louise sees Adam packing to go to France. She feels sad, but lets him leave. Later, she reads Rob's diary. Then David shows up. He says he was just passing by, but it's clear he came to see her. Louise hides the diary. They talk and feel close. David says he's happy with Louise. That night, David avoids Adele and locks himself in a room. The next morning, he leaves early. Adele calls to ask about it, but David doesn't say much. She says she loves him. David replies after a pause. Adele feels hurt and texts Louise asking to meet. Louise doesn't answer. Adele feels lonely and thinks about Rob. Rob once tricked someone to get cigarettes or drugs. He used to count his fingers while talking about dreams. Adele still does this when she feels stressed. Louise starts to wonder if David truly cares for her or if he's with her just because his marriage is failing. She begins pulling away. David tells her he's lonely and not using her. Adele becomes too attached to David. She cooks a special dinner, but they end up arguing. David thinks she might be using drugs again. The next day, he calls the landline to check on Adele. Louise hears part of the call and gets more curious. She texts Adele and asks to meet. When they meet, Adele says David tries to control everything and she feels trapped. Louise asks about Rob's dream techniques. Adele says they're hard and she feels like a failure. Louise encourages her to keep trying. That night, Adele counts her fingers and reads Rob's poems. One poem is about a nightmare with zombies and a door leading to a better life. Adele wonders when she'll find her own door. The next morning, David gives Adele her pills, but she fakes taking them. She spits them out and goes out to buy drugs. Some men bother her, and she gets badly hurt. When David sees her, he's shocked. Adele lies and says it happened in the kitchen. David doesn't believe her. Louise tries the dream method from a diary. She lies down, counts her fingers, and focuses. Her dream changes. She sees a glowing door and walks in her old childhood home. Next, Louise has a peaceful dream. She's in a quiet, happy place with her son, and David is also there. She wakes up feeling light and calm. David, still worried about Adele, gives her real dose of medicine. Adele feels dizzy, showing she hadn't been taking it. She remembers the recovery center again. Once, she told Rob she wanted to leave, but Rob didn't. He promised to visit her one day. Later, while David visits a patient, a boy named Anthony sees Adele's injury and wrongly thinks David hurt her. Later, Louise sees Adele's bruised face and is surprised. Adele tells her the injury happened while doing housework. While they jog together, Louise shares that she was able to control her dream for the first time. She says she saw something beautiful and thanks the dream tricks in Rob's diary. At the clinic, Anthony's parents talk to Dr. Sharma and say they're worried about Adele. Dr. Sharma speaks to David about it and says someone might investigate. David is shocked and says he never heard Adele. To make sure, Dr. Sharma calls Adele, who calmly acts like everything is fine. Louise overhears the call and becomes more confused. Later, Louise talks to David again. When she brings up Dr. Sharma's visit, David seems cold. Their talk becomes uncomfortable. That night, Louise dreams again. She sees the same glowing door Rob talked about, but wakes up before going through it. She reads more of the diary and learns Rob once really liked Adele and didn't like David. Meanwhile, Adele uses the finger-counting method again and dreams. Her spirit leaves her body and floats into David's office. At the same time, David calls Louise to talk and says he loves her. His feelings for Louise are clearly growing. Adele seems to sense this. She upgrades her gym plan to match Louise's and pays for it herself. She also convinces Anthony to sneak into David's office to take something. In return, she gives him something that looks like drugs. One day, David hears a gym call about Louise's membership. He becomes suspicious and checks Adele's phone. He sees she's been texting Louise. Angry, he rushes to Louise's house. He's upset she didn't tell him she knew Adele. Louise says it was never planned. They argue, and Louise says he may have used both her and Adele. David tells her to stay away from them. Feeling hurt, Louise gives a letter to Dr. Sharma, possibly quitting her job. Then she goes to Adele's house. When no one answers, she looks inside and sees Adele unconscious. She breaks in and wakes her. Louise doesn't know that Adele's spirit was outside her body at the time. Adele starts talking more openly. She says David always controls her and gives her pills daily. She also claims he had a secret relationship with another woman. Louise starts to believe David is not as good as she thought. Her son returns from his trip, and she feels happy, but her mind is full of worries. One night, she sneaks into David's office and takes Adele's medical file. She wants to know what medicine he gives her. The next day, she gives the file to Adele. Adele says she thinks David might have done something bad to Rob. She remembers how Rob once came to visit, but never said goodbye. David said Rob left early, but that never made sense to her. Louise reads more of the diary and finds out Adele used drugs again after leaving the treatment center. That night, she dreams again. She sees the glowing door and walks through it. Her spirit leaves her body and floats through the house. She even sees a glass on the floor in her son's room. In the morning, the glass is exactly where she saw in her dream. So, it wasn't just a dream. Far away, Adele's spirit watches the police silently. Later, David goes to Louise's house. He wants his office keychain and knows Louise took Adele's file. He threatens her, but Louise isn't scared anymore. Adele remembers a day long ago when she told Rob her biggest secret, how she could leave her body while sleeping. David didn't believe in it, but Rob did. They both tried it together, counting fingers before bed. Their souls floated out. Rob was excited, and Adele explained they could go farther with more practice. Later, she introduced Rob to David. Back in the present, Louise talks with her son. But without meaning to, her spirit leaves her body and floats into a neighbor's home. Her son sees her not moving and panics. When she wakes up, she goes to the neighbor's house and sees it looks just like what she saw while floating. She realizes Adele wasn't unconscious that day. She was spirit traveling. Louise visits the woman David used to date. At first, the woman doesn't want to talk. But then she tells Louise that Adele once came to her house, threatened her, and damaged her walls. Scared, the woman left David and never came back. She warns Louise to be careful too. In the past, Rob once used spirit travel to spy on Adele and David while they were together. He watched with jealousy. Back now, Louise calls David and tells him Adele always knew about them. Adele only made friends with Louise to turn her against David. Louise then asks what really happened to Rob. David finally tells the truth. He says Adele told him Rob died after forcing her to use drugs. She hid Rob's body and begged David to stay quiet. Now, David feels guilty and wants to go to Scotland to tell the police everything. He says he and Louise can be together afterward. Louise warns him that Adele is dangerous, but he won't listen. So, Louise calls Adele and tells her everything. Adele, now scared and angry, writes a note saying David wasn't part of Rob's death. She takes a large dose of drugs, planning to die. Louise goes to her house, finds the door locked, and senses something is wrong. She uses the dream trick to leave her body and enters Adele's to save her. But it's a trap. Adele's spirit jumps into Louise's body. Louise realizes Adele used drugs to freeze her body, so Louise would get stuck inside. Adele, now in Louise's body, laughs at her. Outside, she acts like she's crying, and when David arrives, she gets his sympathy. Time passes. A funeral is held. Louise's body is burned, but Adele's soul is inside it. Adele, now living as Louise, continues her life. When David returns, he hugs Louise, not knowing it's not her anymore. But here comes a twist. In the past, Adele and Rob had tried switching souls. Rob didn't like it and wanted to stop. Adele got angry and gave him an injection. Rob's body died, and Adele took everything. Now, David is planning to marry Louise. But there's another surprise. Adele's soul isn't in Louise's body anymore either. Rob's is. This is what really happened. Rob had fallen in love with David a long time ago. At the recovery center, Adele always talked about David, and Rob became curious. He started watching them using astral travel. He shared his diary with Adele and taught her the spirit tricks. But in the end, Rob didn't just help Adele. He used everything he learned to take over Louise's body. That's how the story ends, with Rob, now inside Louise's body, finally getting the life he always wanted with David.
Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.